Hi everyone, this is Rich. In today's video, we're going to walk a property and show you, the new investor, what to look for. It's always nerve-wracking when you first start out. What is my rehab budget going to be? And did I factor in all the things that possibly are going to need to be repaired or replaced? So hopefully today's video is going to help you to understand what you should be looking for and how to factor that into your rehab cost. Typically we start from the outside and we look for things that are going to affect the structure, things that kind of just jump out at us. Like for instance, this concrete, you can tell there's root invasion from these massive trees and just breaking up the concrete. So nobody's going to buy this house in that kind of a condition. We then start looking at anything that has to do with wood, whether it's the fascia, the siding, and we're looking for little telltale signs. Obviously, if it hasn't been painted recently, is the paint peeling? But more importantly, does it show that maybe there's some water damage, which means there's going to be root rot, wood rot, and or termites. You go look closely, like right here in the corner, you can see that the paint's peeling and possibly even a little bit of wood damage. And if we look up at the fascia, you can also see that the paint is kind of distressed, doesn't look smooth. So either they didn't prep the wood properly when they painted it, and they just slapped on, lipstick on a pig kind of thing, and didn't want to spend the time and energy and money to do things correctly, or it truly is weathered and possibly has some problems. But those are the kinds of things that our inspector will take a little bit closer look at once we're under escrow. So although there's a lot of shrubbery, a lot of trees that looks really nice, you can see over there, there's these huge roots that invaded the yard. And this is actually a root right here.
Oh yeah, I feel it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So see that root invasion is coming this way. And then there's a depressed area here.
Mm-hmm.
So, I guess some people would find it acceptable, but more than likely, with this kind of root invasion, I would be really concerned about how it's affecting the foundation of the house. Also notice that this brick is broken, and that's because of these palm trees.
Mm-hmm.
So those things are going to have to get repaired or replaced.
Or removed, yeah.
Because nobody's going to buy this house with broken concrete, broken planter boxes. It's just not very appealing.
I would say at first glance, the landscaping looks clean, nothing is too overgrown, but knowing a few signs to look out for, like root intrusion, something to not overlook when you're walking a property, because those could be problems that pop up, in escrow or during your project that may be more costly to fix or remove than you initially expected.
Don't underestimate the hardscape and softscape.
Exactly. We've learned our lessons so many times, underestimating hardscape and landscaping.
This is a real good indication, come over here, that this board was attacked by termites. And if there were termites on here, I would definitely be concerned about termites in the attic.
Okay.
Because termites fly.
Okay.
And for whatever reason, they added all this wood to kind of hide these windows. Yeah, kind of decoration. So there just seems to be a lot of wood that was not properly prepared, which, again, I'm more concerned about termites in California. Also, since we're out here, you can see that these are aluminum windows. These were probably original. These would have to get replaced with something. In California, we have Title 24. It has to do with energy efficiency. So all these windows would have to be replaced with Title 24 compliant windows. If you can get a good image of the roof.
Looks like asphalt.
This might be a good angle here. Let's back up a little bit.
Well, that's all right. You can.
Yeah, so which is pretty common in California, are asphalt or composite shingles. If you look at the roof and all the shingles, they still look fairly flat. If the edges were curled up, I would say it's time to replace. But there's nothing as far as the roof is concerned that jumps out. It looks flat. There's no shingles that are curled up on the ridge or anywhere on the flat surface. It looks relatively new, probably within the last 5-6 years. So I'm not too concerned about the roof.
First thing would be to remove this screen door, replace the front door.
Outdated.
Yeah, definitely
but the first
original.
thing I noticed when I walked in here was the smell of paint. So I go back to my previous comment. I think this is a lipstick on a pig kind of house. So here's a couple of things that catch my eye right away. Is this light switch? It seems trivial. It's not a three-way switch. Maybe it is. Let me check. Yeah. So a three-way switch is usually at the end of a hall. One switch on one end and another switch on the other end. But if you notice, this switch is upside down, right? I have to actually flip it down to turn on that light. So was the electrician even qualified to put a switch in? And then also notice here that this is a 3-prong receptacle and this is 2. So this was probably original, which means that the wiring was not grounded, where they replaced the original receptacle with the 3-prong, but that says it's not really grounded. So I would right away start questioning what is the condition of the wiring, the electrical wiring in this property. And we'll look at the electrical main panel a little bit later, but definitely keep an eye on electrical. Here's another thing. They forgot to put the cover plate on this. Okay, again, this is 3-prong, and that's 2-prong. So, and the only reason they made this 3-prong is because they had to plug this in. Mm-hmm. So guaranteed this is not grounded, which is a bit of a concern. Obviously all this cabinetry looks original. Mm-hmm. So my next question is the plumbing original? And depending on when the house was built, they're going to use galvanized pipe or copper. And if it's galvanized pipe, guaranteed it's already leaking. So we want to address the plumbing. So a good place to find out whether or not the house has original plumbing is to look at these valves. Let me get a light on it. Yeah, that does not look like copper. So if you look at, why don't you come
yeah,
in
what
here?
are they looking for?
Look at the valve and the little pipe that's coming out of the wall. Okay, you can tell if it's copper, it's copper.
Right there? Am I filming the right thing?
Yeah, up on the top left there.
Okay.
Okay, so that's still original pipe. You can see there's been some leaks here.
When we rock properties, I'm not the one to be crawling into small spaces and looking at pipes. That's my dad's job. So
the good news is that it looks like at least some of the plumbing's been replaced. This is normally black pipe. You want to make sure that from this point to the main sewer line that it's a clear line and nothing is broken in that main line. Otherwise, that's easily going to be $10,000 or $12,000 to replace the main sewer line. So always have your sewer lines inspected. Next thing you want to look for are cracks. And cracks are really good telltale signs on what is happening with the foundation. You're going to see small cracks, which is normal settling. What you really want to look for are large cracks or separations. So if we look at the perimeter of the ceiling, which I always walk around and look, this room does not have any cracks or separation, which is a good sign. However, I do see over here in this corner let me throw some light on there. That looks like water damage. See how
It's peeling.
the popcorn is peeling? So more than likely there was water damage there. And here again, see this right here? See how it's kind of bubbled out and cracked? So they just threw a coat of paint on everything to try to hide
Disguise.
those kinds of things and disguise, exactly.
When you talked about minor cracking is okay, but large cracks, should you be looking for horizontal cracks or vertical cracks? Which one is more concerning?
Well, it depends where the cracks are. If they're over doorways, you're going to expect vertical cracks. If you start seeing a lot of cracks, I would definitely look to see if the floor is sloped or not, and whether it's a raised floor or a slab. That's going to indicate, possibly the weight of the slab or the footing is compromised, and that's why you're going to see large cracks on the walls. Above the doors, that's somewhat common, but it's really going to be how wide is the crack and if there's separation between the wall and the ceiling. So here's the HVAC.
Oh, this looks good.
It looks relatively new. And I say it's relatively new because this is a valve, it's a safety valve. This plumbing, I don't know where it's going to. This should be going to the outside.
But this is in good shape, so I'd say
yeah,
we don't need to replace the HVAC.
yeah, we don't need to replace that.
It's proper venting underneath.
Yeah, they just threw a lot of white paint at everything.
Yeah, the bedrooms are pretty straightforward. It's really just the ceilings, the windows, like we said, make sure you're counting up your windows. Bathrooms is this a Jack and Jill? Bathrooms are pretty outdated. And of course, when you're working through your budget and your scope of work, that's kind of up to you to decide, are you replacing all the flooring, all the fixtures? That's kind of dependent on the project. But laundry is in garage. That's very common in our market to have laundry. What is going on over here with that pipe?
Good question.
That
again,
does
here's
not
a
look
good indicator. This is not copper. So this house needs to be totally replumbed.
Yeah.
So again, that's a big expense. Look at the valves. See how old they are? So this house needs all new plumbing. That's a major cost that you're going to have to factor into your rehab budget.
What did they say?
They
Is that
tried to
duct tape?
seal this off.
Oh my
Right?
gosh.
They tried to seal that off so the water would.
I feel like that's
They
a
had
fire
probably had
waiting
a
to
problem
happen.
with the drain, and so they tried to seal it off so it wouldn't overflow. That's probably why this is all damaged, because this whole area got wet at one time. So up to this point, the whole house probably needs to be rewired and replumbed.
Yeah, those are the two big expenses so far. All right, following you, what do we have up here?
Well, right off the bat, I'm questioning if this is to code because there's no rails.
Well, I think any addition that we run into, we always question whether or not it was permitted. And that's super easy to go to the city and give them the address, and they'll be able to tell you whether or not any improvements that were done to the property were permitted.
Can you see this little wave right here? That just means that, again, the walls were not prepped properly, or there was probably water intrusion and things are peeling away. That is crazy. A little bit of duct tape. Yeah, I'm sure that's not up to code. Again, some more peeling here, some more bubble, you can feel it.
Yeah.
It's pulled away. But that's what happens when someone preps the house for sale and they just throw a bunch of paint on it. They're not going to spend the time and energy and money to do things correctly, which means you inherited their mess.
And this is where we recommend, when you're in escrow, to use your inspection contingency periods wisely. If you can call some of these things out when you're first walking a property and then you get into inspection, you already kind of know what you're looking for, and that will confirm.
Well, and like in this case, once we were in escrow, we would come back and we'd want credit for possibly the sewer line that might have to get replaced or cleaned out. The plumbing of the entire house, that would be a credit. Same thing with the wiring. So those are big expenses that you can always go back to the seller and say, I want a credit because I got to do this.
You can negotiate. You can ask. They can always say no, but you can negotiate.
Yeah.
Now go.
So this particular property, this patio cover was not original. It was added on. You can see that they tied it into the fascia. From a construction standpoint, it looks like it was built well. But again, we don't know what the roof material was like, so I would be looking for wood damage, wood rot, termites, especially with these posts. The post is actually sitting on the concrete, which means water collects and it just soaks up into the wood. So
oh yeah, it's
there
really
you go.
soft.
See, and if you look at
oh my gosh.
this is termite poop right here. It looks like brown sand right there.
Yeah.
That's termite poop. So they did a really good job trying to hide so much. And if you look at that other post, so all the posts are just sitting on the concrete. And oh yeah, here, look at this one.
Yeah, there you go.
Because this is a wood beam, it acts like a straw, and the water just comes up, and then the termites go to town on it.
So this patio cover has to go.
Oh yeah. Well, at least the posts have to get replaced.
But it's also, I feel like you're losing so much of the natural light. Like it's making the entire living space so dark. But that comes back to, I guess, your discretion as an investor.
Here's
what's important to you.
So the meter itself is new. That got replaced. It's neither here or there. But this is the original panel. All these circuit breakers are really old. Again, just an indication that the wiring in this entire house is not adequate.
Is there a way to know just by looking at an electrical panel if it needs to be replaced?
Yeah, because you can see the breakers are going to look new. They're going to be new breakers. Like this one's new. See the color versus that.
Okay.
Right. So that's one indication, and just everything on here looks old. So you definitely want to look at the condenser unit, and this one looks new compared to one that's old and rusty and not functional. This whole unit looks relatively new. I mean, look at the quality of the paint on here and here. So I'm going to say this is only probably a couple years old.
Yeah.
Is this our water heater? Yeah. So some homes are going to have water closets outside, or water heater closets outside, and sometimes, usually you're going to find it in the garage. Again, you just take a look at it. It looks relatively new. I don't smell any gas, which we've come across. I remember one house we were looking at, and I opened up the closet, and it was like, boom! All kinds of gas fumes were collecting.
Something you haven't touched on, Dad, if you want to talk about just observing the foundation from the outside where it meets and looking for some potential red flags there. This is where you would look for cracking along the foundation on the outside. You would look for settling, lifting, separating.
Here again is a good example where you have dirt right up against the house. The moisture is going up the wall and it's causing the paint to peel. But I also see some damage to the concrete. So that's a little bit concerning.
Wow.
So
is that on our property or their property?
Well, it's probably shared, but it's just a point where don't underestimate how much it's going to cost to deal with hardscape and landscape issues.
Yeah.
It looks simple, but until you start getting some quotes, it could surprise you, come back and bite you. So don't underestimate hardscape, softscape issues.
Ripping out a single tree could be upwards of what, $10,000 just to remove a tree.
Yeah, we've spent as little as $2,000 to remove a tree and stump grind it, and we've also spent as much as $15,000 just to trim the trees back away from the house. Okay, so this is a good example of what you want. You want to see concrete all the way up against the house and see that it's slightly sloped, which means the water's going to run away from the house. There's no separation here, which means water has not gotten in there and tried to separate things. So this is an example of what you want to see. There's just an itty bitty crack. There's no big issue there. So this side looks really, really good. It's just
where the dirt
eliminate
is meeting the foundation directly.
Yeah. Thanks for watching this video and taking the time. We hope that it was helpful, and you're going to take some of the things that we pointed out and apply it to your next property walk. In our next video, Olivia is going to show you our process in underwriting and coming up with the analysis on whether or not, from a financial standpoint, if we're going to make an offer on a property and if it's a good deal. We'll see you in the next video.